And welcome to Down the Alley. This is PMAC,
And Ted T.S. Spirides.
And Katie,
and we made it through. Made it through sections. Did I lose my voice? Did I lose my voice?
Yeah, you lost your voice already, even after 2 minutes of prep time.
Yeah, no, not sure what happened there. We have made it through sections. Maybe I'm just excited for the pod. And we are just talking about barbecue. So maybe I was just getting choked up about what Old Southern Barbecue is doing for all the dads on Father's Day.
Yeah, some dads like to on Father's Day like to get the barbecue, get the grills and the smokers and all that stuff out and do their own. Um, but don't make dad grill for you if they would rather just go to one of their locations and just order a feast and just no dishes, no prep, no trimming briskets. So if you maybe ask dad if they want to just hit up one of the old Southern barbecue locations and it tabs on me today.
Old Southern Barbecue, check it out. Also, plenty of goodies online. Use DTA 15 for 15% off on their website. Lot to get through today. Lot to get through today. I'm interested to see, last podcast we were like, let's get weird. Let's make these sections weird. Um, and I guess I've been kind of focused in on my section. My section got weird.
Yeah.
I've looked at a couple already. I know a few sections got weird. How weird did we get? And speaking of weird, Roaring Kitty's back today. He's back today after 3 years. I know this isn't lacrosse. Ted,
some people don't know who that is.
I know.
I
Ted, do you
don't
know
even
who Roaring Kitty is?
know who Roaring Kitty is.
He's a Netflix sensation. He's
Okay.
a stock market sensation. He's behind the meme stocks. Meme stocks are back.
Oh,
So Roaring Kitty, I was like, we got to record early because Roaring Kitty records at like 11. He's going live for the first time in 3 years. So
okay.
talk about getting weird. Things are getting weird out there, folks.
Um, yeah,
Well, I would just go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say we had the feeling last podcast that things were gonna get weird. It was too chalky. It was too chalky into the semis. There was some chalk. There was some weird stuff. There was some very weird stuff. Um, we'll get to it. I don't know who Roaring Kitty is, but sounds like he likes when things get weird. Why was he on a 3-year hiatus? He or she on a 3-year hiatus?
He was the GameStop guy.
Oh, did he get
He was the one who like predicted the GameStop
got it?
situation and like put all his money. And then there was a Netflix documentary about him, and he's like kind of a nerd that
Yeah.
like he has like a family and stuff, and they were all like, "What
He
are you
did.
doing?" And he was the guy who like started it all.
And like he had to like testify to the Supreme Court and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Forgot
So
about that. I forgot
yeah,
about that small
that
thing.
whole part, I think, maybe some of those reasons he's like, all right, I probably should stop.
Yeah.
And then all
He's
of a
just like a
sudden,
day trader, right? Like that's been his job.
he worked in finance, whatever. But then all of a sudden, the memes started coming. He started tweeting. Now he's getting the live streams back. I, things are getting weird. Things are getting weird. Uh, and
I
let's
would just like to personally take accountability for saying that there were no upsets. I feel like I kind of put that into the universe and manifested that. And so I would like to take full responsibility for my words that
I think
turned
we
into actions. Was it a premonition? I don't know. Am I a psychic medium? I don't know. I don't
the,
know. But I would like to just maybe apologize to some people for saying that, because I feel like I took a part. I
I'm
took a
not ready
role.
to accept your apology, but I appreciate those words.
It was because I said it. I said it, and
at the same
um
time,
feel bad.
you know, generally, I would say most of the time in high school lacrosse in Minnesota, the 1 through the 4 in the sections usually get to the semis. Maybe a 5 sneaks through, maybe a 6, but there isn't a ton of upsets early. But I didn't think this year. This year had some big games and some very interesting games, but I I I didn't think it was like completely out of line either. So I don't know. I mean, I there's always every year there's a couple big ones, and we'll get into it, but um yeah, it feels weird that we're all of a sudden here now talking about the state tournament. Um, I don't know. My first game, I was saying this, we had our banquet last night, and I was kind of like that Chisago Lakes game in April feels like 2 lifetimes ago. And it, it was really only 10 weeks ago. So it's like 10 weeks is a blip on the radar in the long term, but man, um does it go by quickly, but it's also like feels like a forever too. So it's all this weird the time perspective of being in season. I don't know if players feel that way, but as coaches, as a coach, I feel that way.
Yeah,
Let's get into it.
it's the longest but quickest 8 to 10 to 12ish weeks, whatever it is. Um, it's a blink of an eye, but like when you're in the middle of it, you're like, holy smokes, this is like forever, like I don't know.
Yep, for
But
sure.
but yeah, let's good banquet. Good banquet.
Yep. It was good. It was good. I think vibes were high. Despite obviously Tigers not making it through to state. We're very proud of the season we had, and I think we're excited about the future too. So yeah, it was a good banquet, and it was at Bracket, so it was good food, and yeah, close to my house. So
Win.
yeah.
No, yeah, let's dive into it. I think we can kind of go what we did last episode, section by section, boy, girl, boy, whatever. Which would mean we start with section one, which was one of the chalky ones.
Yep.
We got the Lakevilles, we got the Farmingtons kind of mixed in here on the girls side. We got Lakeville South and Lakeville North, inner city battle. The favorite prevails. Again, probably no one's probably surprised here.
Yep.
This is a team that's going to be going to the state tournament. I imagine they'll be the 1 seed going into the state tournament. They're the favorite to win it. I think they're the favorite the last 2 years as well. This is a team, again, that could make a deep state tournament playoff run, in my opinion.
I agree.
I don't think there's really anything more to say about section one, to be honest.
Let's just stick with the girls. So we can just go down the list here. I don't have to flip back, go to window. So we'll go section 2 girls. I think this was, would you say, one of the best sections, one of the most competitive sections as far as teams.
I guess for those who got into the top 4.
Yeah. The top 4. I mean, we have 1, 2. So the set both semis and the final were 3-goal games. So obviously any one of these teams could have come out. Minnetonka, the Skippers, congrats to the Skippers. They make their first state tournament with a 16-13 win over Eden Prairie. I feel like this, I don't know if people believe in like the auras and the phenomenons of sports and all that kind of stuff, but like I feel like for Minnetonka girls, this is a really big step for their program, not just to make it to state, but they did it by beating Eden Prairie in a final. Like that slays the dragon. It gets the monkey off the back, whatever the phrase you want to use. But like they did it. Like we beat the best teams to get here. We deserve to be here. It wasn't a lucky break or anything like that. So great job by the Skippers. Coach Anna, shout out. Nice work with the squad.
36 bias. I think that's it. Let's move on to section 3.
Katie, I thought you'd have more to say on Taka. You 3 weeks. Hold on, no. Don't cut me off now. Don't cut me off now. You 2-3 weeks ago when PL played Minnetonka, you were getting high on them. You were buying the stock.
I still am, and I knew pumping they were going to see. I knew they were going to win, and I was like, I think it's their year. I predicted Tonka over EP. I think it's like the huge gauntlet in girls lacrosse to beat EP. I'm sure 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 years ago, everyone was like, we're never going to make it out of our section. And I'm sure that's what people think about section 6. And we've lost 2 years ago. We lost 2 years in a row. And I'm sure that was what everybody was thinking. And this year was Tonka's year. And obviously EP gave them a tough game. Orono gave them a tough game. Chan gave EP a tough game. Like, competitive games. And I agree that, like, really it's like some of the best of the best. And I think it's just really exciting. And basically, I'm not surprised because I have said it. I said if we played them in the beginning of the season, the way they played at their end of the season, we would have lost. So the way the bracket might be shaking out, I don't know if we're gonna have to play them. But I would love a rematch. It was a fun game. It was a fun game.
On to section 3. This is a section where things get weird. This is the people's section. They got a Hooli. How did this one shake out? There's a lot to break down. What did the sources say? Did we have eyes on scene? Great run by Hooli. Great run by Hooli and the Woodbury Royals. But CDH prevails. A 3 and a 5. What else can the people ask for? What do the people, the sources, and the scouts have to say here?
This is we talked about it. Section 3 is the people's section. Park goes down, gets dropped by Woodbury in overtime. It does not surprise me that Park of Cottage Grove played an overtime game. That's all they did this year's play overtime games. Nice win for the Royals. I think, obviously fell short in the final, but I would say they're happy with what they did this year. I think maybe they, early in the year, they dropped a couple games, like didn't really know, but they made a nice run here at the end. Cretin, on the other hand, what an up and down year for them. I think they kind of won some big games early, then they dropped a few here in late May, and then they decided we're gonna play our best when it matters, and they, as a 3 seed, go and upset the 2, and end up beating the 5 in the final. I did have somebody tell me that was at the Eastridge Cretin girls game, the semi. Jordan Rozga, we've talked about her on the podcast, difference maker, and was just someone that kind of took over the game and was a huge factor. So obviously, when you have a player like that on your team, you always have a chance to win. So congrats to Cretin Durham Hall for battling through Section 3 and getting back to the state tournament.
Katie?
I think then I was just excited to see that Woodbury was in it. I think it's fun to see other jerseys. I think it's, Woodbury might have been like, oh, we're not Eastridge. Maybe they were thinking that, maybe they weren't. But I think it's just fun to see that a Woodbury team, someone we don't really talk about a lot in girls lacrosse, not necessarily one of the top 10 teams. Obviously a number 5 seed. I just thought that was super cool.
I got one more player to shout out. I know Rozga gets a lot of props, which she should. But Sophia Watts of CDH, 100-point season so far, not a big deal. 77 goals, and against that Woodbury team, she didn't just score a hat trick; she scored a double. She scored a McDouble hat trick, 7 points on the night. So I again, this isn't a name, and maybe the source is saying her name, and I'm just not reading it every week. But I feel like Rozga, again, rightfully so. But Sophia Watts right behind her in points, and she had a double hat trick against Woodbury to
good shout out,
stamp them to state.
Oh, and
also 36 bias, Coach Abby's class 2018.
19
might have went 19 went, so yeah. They're back.
Yes, so Sophia Watts, I believe a couple weeks ago when after Cretin and Stillwater played, I saw that game. She stood out to me. I maybe mentioned it on the podcast, maybe I didn't, maybe I just texted you guys, but very phenomenal player. I think going to play in college somewhere, I don't remember where, but her career is definitely just starting, and I think, when you have 2 big guns like that, you always have a chance to win. You never know when they're going to pop off, and I think that's going to be dangerous for anybody who plays them in the state tournament.
Section 4, the bracket that I am looking at is not fully updated. I know there's been some screenshots kind of bumping around. I might have to open up my phone now. I got 4 screens going right now, and I can't get the information I need. But I believe in the finals here, Stillwater versus Gentry, I believe Stillwater came out on top on this one.
That is correct. I believe I saw 6-5 Stillwater over Gentry. Low scoring game. I maybe would have expected higher scoring with these two teams just based on like the scores that I looked at over the course of the season. But sometimes, you got to win ugly in the playoffs. And it sounds like Gentry got off to a hot start, and Stillwater kind of battled and kind of took their shots and took a big lead, not a big lead, but a multiple goal lead, which in a 6-5 game could be enough. And it did end up being enough. Gentry did claw back to make it 6-5, but just couldn't, it couldn't get the next couple goals. So shout out to Stillwater. They, again, another team that has had a roller coaster season. I mean, they were in the top 3, then they were out of the top 10, then they were back in the top 10. At the end of the day, they will be representing Section 4 at the state tournament.
And they have to travel. They got to travel they don't get the home field advantage this year. Yeah, and it sounds like it kind of was a gritty game, an hour weather delay. So that means 2 or more lightning strikes. Gentry battled injuries with some of their starters. That's hard to see a teammate go down. But hey, Stillwater prevailed, and they were the number 1 seed. So kind of no surprise there. But you know what, Stillwater, it's your time to get on a bus. We always all come to you.
Well, not always, just in the post.
We
COVID
always
era.
go to them.
Just been
for state.
It's just been the post-COVID era.
Yeah, it's just been a couple
So
years.
it's their time to travel.
Used to be, yeah.
Maybe they'll get a hotel.
I don't think the host team has ever won the state tournament. Is that a real stat, or did I make that up?
I don't know.
Real stat.
What?
I think you made it up, but it's real. It's a real stat.
Is it a real made up stat? We're gonna have to double check that. So at least recently, like I don't think the host team wins.
Was it ever at EP before?
That's kind of the question mark. That's where I'm questioning the stat is like, oh, did he EP host back in the day and when they were kind of winning every year? Of recent history, host teams haven't been winning. So if I'm Stillwater, I'm happy it's gone. Get it out of here. Let's go. Let's travel. We get the whole experience.
I wouldn't. Sometimes
Stillwater's a nice town.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not chirping on.
No. I am not chirping the town. I'm a great town. Everything but the concessions is awesome. I'm talking about. Ted talked about the aura. He's talking about the aura. This is an aura thing.
Yep. There's pieces of that for sure.
Section 5. Section 5. It was mostly chalky going in, stays chalky coming out. BSM, the favorite kind of coming into the season, the favorite coming out. They're going to be a top 3 seed, in the state tournament. They're built to win. And they're back to make to defend their championship.
Yep.
I was really interested about the score because Champlin Park, obviously, that was their only loss of the season.
No, they lost to Maple Grove at the end of the year.
They lost to Maple Grove. I don't know. I don't know if this is telling. I've never seen Champlin Park play. So I'm kind of like, is Champlin Park really good that like competed with the big guns, or is BSM, in my opinion, I thought they would have maybe like crushed a Champlin Park. I don't know. I'm just kind of putting these things in my back pocket, but obviously the 1/3 was that 1, 2, 3, 4 in their section.
No, 1, 2, 3, 5. Blake beat Wayzata in the
Sure.
But
anyways, no one underestimates Benilde.
I agree that looking at the box score, It looks like Champlin Park held Julia Evans to 2 goals and Maggie Graycheck to 1 assist. So defensively, Champlin Park, I think, stopped the 2 top scorers for Benilde. However, Charlize Vang with 6 goals for the Red Knights. That, to me, that's going to be a thing to watch with Benilde, is when their top scorers, not that Charlize Vang isn't a good player or anything like that, but when the 2 big names get shut down, the number 3, the number 4, they can come and score goals and win games. So, secondary scoring, I think, will be interesting to watch the Red Knights as they go through to defend their state title.
And then with this one, looking at the box score as well, I've got a source here. It sounds like it was 9-2 late. So, 9-5,
Oh.
when I was looking at it, I'm like, oh, this one, maybe back and forth. Again, people have asked for a little more context around scores when we're able. Well, when sources text me, it sounds like it was a big lead. Benilde kind of had it. They got Champlin got a couple late ones. There at the end. So it sounds like, so to add to your context of shutting down the big guns, great job by Champlin. Hey, we shut down their 2 big ones who, might be finalists for Mrs. Lacrosse, or, maybe in that conversation. Like, if we do that, we've got a chance. Well, then 3 and 4 have a day. And then, your offense is slowed down, for whatever reasons, schematically, like that's tough. Like that's gotta be tough for Champlin.
I guess I have to retract my statement a little bit. Charlize Vang has 65 points this year. She's 3rd on the team, but 65. So, do you call him the big 3 at that point? I mean, I guess like I don't think that's really like. I think you would have to consider her as one of the quote unquote big guns.
Sure. Yeah. That's fair.
But yeah, no, I agree with you. So Benilde gets a chance to defend their title next week.
Section 6, the Lakers, after 365-ish days, redeem themselves over the Hornets. A repeat section final from a year ago, and Lakers did so with a statement win.
Yeah. And in the semis, 21-3 in the semis. So 17-1 quarters, 21-3 semis, 18-1 final. That's, as a coach, that's how you want to do it. There's no stress. You don't have to sweat it out.
We were sweating.
Yeah.
We were sweating until the 4th quarter. You cannot think you have
it
in the bag with Edina.
I get it, but a 17-goal lead with a minute left is a little less stressful than overtimes and 1-goal games and all that.
Man down in the last seconds into overtime last year.
Oh yeah,
and an 8-goal deficit, 8-goal lead blown in the second half.
Yeah. So congrats to the Lakers. Not really a ton to talk about. I think really the only thing, in my opinion, that was maybe interesting was that how not competitive this section was, when we assumed it would be very competitive. It generally is. And so I don't know if, what the reasons for that are, but Prior Lake seems to be playing their best lacrosse right now. Should probably get, a 2 seed in the state tournament. And, be able to make their run through. So nice job by the Lakers.
On to section 7. Section 7. An absolute gauntlet. I was asking for weird. Is this chaos? Like, well, what do you call a 5 and 6 final here? 5
about as weird as it gets.
Yeah, this is what happens when you you do a different seeding policy. For whatever reason that they did do it, I think it's clear that a coach's vote is probably it's not perfect system, but it's probably the best system that you could have versus an algorithm. Um, so we end up with the number 5 Centennial against the number 6 team, the Huskies of Andover, and the 6 seed Andover repeat. Or did they weren't at state last year, right? It's 2 years ago.
Oh, I think they were.
I thought Champlin Park beat them last year, but
Oh, did they? Then yeah, 2 years ago.
Andover gets back to the state tournament. A lot of people wrote them off. They didn't have
Not you.
Not
Not
Ted.
you.
Ted didn't write them off, folks.
A lot of people looked at the scores, looked at the season they had, and maybe we're like, this might not be the year. But the 6 seed, they were saving whatever they were saving it for the playoffs. And congrats to Andover for making it to the state tournament and winning their section.
And last but not least, Section 8. What a season this was. We're back to chalk. But what a season and what a statement win here. Kind of like Section 6, with PL Elk River just taking care of business, not leaving, any questions. This is Elk River section, at least for this year. And they're ready to go. Like, is this a team that could, I don't know what seed they're going to get or where they're going to maybe randomly end up against. Is this a team that could do something weird at state?
I think so. They maybe weren't as dominant as they were last year, but they've lost 3 games to Champlin Park, to Maple Grove, and back on April 20th to Minnetonka by 1. We might see a first round Minnetonka Elk River rematch. The way the seeding is working out, it might happen. Minnetonka Elk River could get a rematch of their April 20th game. Minnetonka won that game 11-10. So very competitive game. Could an upset be brewing? I don't see the state tournament seedings. I've been refreshing that page to see if they're coming out. They usually come out mid-morning here on Friday, so it could be any moment. But I think that's what I'm hoping. If we're talking about things getting weird, I think I'm putting a memo into the MSHSL to the coaches to say, let's get that Tonka Elk River Zimmerman quarterfinal 4-5 matchup for the people.
For the people. If the source's write-up, you guys, you got to go read it because he refers to Buffalo as Buffy. And that just had me giggling in my seat just now.
The source did drop their section kind of post section blog, downthealley.com or downthealleypod.com. Check that out. I'm sure we'll be tweeting it or retweeting it as well. Great work by the source, as always. Over to the boys, the section tournament. Maybe we should start with 8 so we don't have to start right off with this. But if we're going to go numerical order, section 1, Ted's section. This has been the last few years back and forth between the Panthers and the Tigers. It seems like it's these two at the end every year now, at least in the post-COVID era. North restates their dominance of section 1. They're back in the state tournament. Another team, well, I guess both teams, there's 2 of them, one on the girls' side, one on the boys' side now. They make it back to state to be able to defend their state title. This is a team we've been talking about all season. They've been up, they've been down, they win, they lose, but this is a team that has some of the best weapons in some of the best spots on the field, which makes them dangerous, which makes them a team, no matter what they did in the regular season, no matter what seed they get here in the state tournament, still TBD. This is a team that could go the distance if the pieces fall together. They come out of section 1. Ted, you were obviously at this game. Anything to say on the Panthers? The game, anything of that nature?
Yeah, so Lakeville this year, if you looked at their record, you might go, "Oh, like they're down or whatever." But they scheduled about as tough of a schedule. They got their South Suburban teams, but they schedule all the top teams, right? And I think that was a great move by the coaching staff to be like, "All right, we're the champs. We got to put ourselves in state championship caliber games every night." And they lost a few games, but I will say in that section final, they did not make one mistake. They played lights out. I think we talk about Quinn Power that Lakeville North will have the ball a lot on offense and get their electric offense the ball. So they're already going to have the ball a lot, but when they don't make any mistakes on offense, they don't throw a pass away, they don't they don't miss shots, whatever. They're nearly impossible to beat. And I will have to shout out Coach Kev on defense. Their defense was much improved from even a couple weeks ago when we saw them. So, if a team does find a way to solve maybe the face-off battle with them, I think defensively they've gotten better. So, it doesn't matter what seed you give them; they have a chance to win every night with, like PMAC, like you said, with the weapons that they have on their team.
Section 2. This is one of the big storylines of the year. This section, had a few teams, move out of it. You still got the perennial powers of Chanhassen Tonka, who are in the section final, but this gave room and opportunity for the likes of Orono, Buffalo, Chaska, and others to, maybe try to make a run here. It didn't happen this year. This year, it's back to the two blue bloods, Chanhassen, who seems to be in it year in and year out. Tonka, who is they're there a lot. They're there a lot. They were definitely there this year. The number 2 seed comes out with this one, 13-10. I talked to some sources on this one. Tonka has figured some things out late. I don't know if it was Chanhassen's best game. Ted, who did you talk to? What did you hear? What did you see? I think going into the season, I thought it would have been a Chan win. But obviously Tonka had a different answer.
Yeah, I didn't get a ton of details on the game itself, but Minnetonka is a fairly young group. They had a huge 2023 class, like almost their whole varsity roster was seniors last year, aside from a couple kids. So they had a pretty much a brand new team this year. A lot of sophomores and juniors that were coming up from JV. And I think early on in the season we saw maybe just them figuring it out. Like when you're a sophomore going against seniors, that takes time to learn about the new speed of the game, the new physicality of the game. But you're right. I think they've figured some things out. And they're getting scoring. Their defense is improving. And I guess I would have thought Chan would have been better defensively just because they had that great senior group of poles. But shout out to Minnetonka again for figuring that out and scoring 13 goals. And these two teams have played great playoff games over the years. And kind of cool, the Skipper boys and the Skipper girls are both coming out of Section 2. So kind of fun to have both teams, representing Section 2 for Tonka. So good year for them in the section.
In Section 3, the people's section. Did it get as weird as the girls? Maybe not. Maybe not as weird as the girls. However, not a 1 seed. Not a 1 seed coming out. Not maybe the people's favorite coming out. The people's favorite. Eastridge. I don't know if they're actually the people's favorite, but Eastridge. I know we've been high on them. DTA Nation's been high on them. Ted's been talking about them for years with this group kind of coming up. They go on a heck of a run making it to the final. But when the Wildcats of Egan, when the table gets hot, you don't leave. When the table gets hot for this team, for this organization, anything can happen. It doesn't matter if they're the 3 seed, the 1 seed, they could have been the 6 seed like Andover. It doesn't matter with this group. Things must be clicking. because they are going to be representing the people section. And I can't pick a better style of play to represent the people section.
Egan,
I think I'm not going to make a prediction, but I think I'm high on Egan.
it's not a bad move. Like PMax said, when the table's hot, you're rolling, right? You just logic goes out the window. You got to go on feeling. You got to go with gut feeling. And Egan, I'll be honest, I thought last year was Egan's year. I was really high on them last year, and they lost in the semis and sections. And I thought this year, despite having a couple good players back, I was kind of relatively low on them, honestly, especially preseason. Had them as the 4 seed. I guess they got the 3 seed, so it wasn't too far off. But incredible job by Coach Matea and the boys at Egan. At any moment they can pop off and kind of like Lakeville North, it kind of doesn't really matter where they're seated. Like they could go on a run and win it all. I think they have the right weapons. They have a good face-off guy. They got a big gun goal scorer. So and the style of play, like PMax said, I think it's really hard to play against when they're rolling. And man, it's going to make that price of admission. Get your full weekend pass or your full week state tournament pass, because you're going to want to watch the Wildcats.
Yeah. Egan has one of the biggest difference makers, one of the best athletes that are going to be on the field in the state tournament. Sam Simon, number 6 for the Wildcats. He's a must-watch player. I don't think it's like whatever he's able to do is how far they go. I'm not going to say that, but he's the type of player, like if he's going to pop off in state, I agree with you, Ted. Anything can happen.
Yeah, and Egan, just looking at their stats here, they have 4 players that have 50 points or more. So they have 4 guys. Sam has 71, so he's clearly their leading scorer, but they have 3 other guys with over 50 points, and their face-off guy has 20 goals and 10 assists. So he's not just a Fogo. He is a difference maker as well. So a lot of offensive production for the Wildcats. We'll see how teams decide to game plan against that.
Yeah, their Fogo is a weapon. What number is he?
3 or 4 or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Single digit.
On to section 4. One of the northern sections, I think their Wi-Fi is down. They haven't been able to update the final game here. We've got a chalky section, with the final being Stillwater versus White Bear. And I believe I saw a screenshot. I believe Stillwater came out on top on this one. Am I correct?
Yes, according to Laxub, Stillwater wins 10-8 over White Bear. That game was closer than I thought it would be. So shout out to White Bear for keeping that one interesting and giving themselves a chance. Yeah, I mean, Stillwater all year, they've kind of had moments where like, oh, what's going on? And then they just blow up, right? And they just can score in bunches. Another really fun team to watch. I think it would be a good price of admission. It's worth the price of admission to go watch the Ponies play. And if the seating, the state seating ends up how I think it's going to end up, we could potentially see an Egan Stillwater semifinal.
That would be bananas.
I would have to probably clear my schedule for that.
Like, have they ever played each other?
I have no idea.
I feel like in the history of teams playing each other, that is not a matchup we see a lot.
I feel like they're going to need to restring the nets after that game. Like, there's going to be so many goals scored. It might be a 30-29 game.
Watch, it'll be if they play 8-7.
Although I will say the Stillwater goalie is a difference maker.
Stud.
So, yeah, it could be.
I watched their Prior Lake game, and he's
super good.
He's good. He's good.
Yeah,
and he's young, right?
Hey, he
seems young.
He's a sophomore. Well, yeah. He's probably junior now because it's school's out. So he's a 2026.
He's a rising junior.
Yeah, one of the best goalies in the state as a rising junior. And hey, I know we talk a lot about faceoffs being this really important thing. A hot goaltender, I think that's a bigger difference maker in the state tournament than the faceoffs. Like
I agree.
and
You know how
still,
high I am on the goalies.
yeah, Stillwater's got. I mean, they've been in the top 5 pretty much all year. They've played they played all the top teams for the most part. So I expect them to be seated somewhere. And yeah, we'll see. I think the aura, and also just like the Skippers, Section 4, owned by Stillwater, the girls and the boys, and they don't have the aura. They don't have the home teams never won the state tournament. They can go on the road and win the state tournament.
On to Section 5, another section owned by one school. This was a section where we were looking at it. We were hoping for some chaos. We want the people wanted it to get weird. It really didn't. Not at really any point. I don't know how controversial we want to get into. Maybe with the semifinals. But at least for that final game, Benilde. They stamped their ticket to go back to the state tournament. They continue to own this section. You're going to have to go through them to get to state. Benilde owns Section 5, both on the girls and the boys. Chalky section.
Yeah.
Not a ton to add.
Yeah, I will say Wayzata, I think it was 6-5 Benilde over Wayzata at halftime. So it was a competitive game, at least for a half. I didn't watch it, so maybe it wasn't, and the score was just closer than it was. But the depth of Benilde obviously was a factor, and they turned it on in the second half and kind of pulled away. Obviously, we've talked about, they have a few big electric players, Gus Bell, Sky Rolled. I had plenty of other players that are just weapons. They got a great defense, athletes all over the field, depth. And like we've all, like you said, you're gonna have to beat them at some point if you're gonna want to hoist the trophy. And I think they're the favorite going in to the state tournament.
I would agree. I don't think there will be too much conversation around. I would imagine they'll be the 1 seed. The favorite going in. They kind of check pretty much every box. They continue to get there and continue to make deep playoff runs. They're going to be the favorite going in, and someone's going to have to beat them. Like, you're going to have to beat them, I believe, to win it. Section 6. Again, I think this is the section, maybe on the boys' side where we asked for things to get weird. This might have been pure chaos from the semifinals on. The 4 seed, Eden Prairie. I can't say enough good things about them. They came out with it. They shot their shot. They won their matchups, and they rightfully so punched their ticket to a state tournament. Being a newcomer to this section, they said, "Yeah, throw us in Section 6. Throw us in Section 6. Put us in the section of death. The section of, name it whatever you want. We don't care. We're gonna find a way." And they won 2 1-goal games in the semis and the finals, when both times they were probably written off by the public.
And down at halftime in both games.
I might talk about our game a little bit. We'll see. But they find a way. Find a way. Go ahead.
No, I got a couple things here. So first of all, Eden Prairie getting moved into the hardest section and then winning it as a 4 seed is the most on-brand Eden Prairie move of all time. Like, just, we talk about playoff Eden Prairie, we talk about the athletics across the board at their school, but like you said, it was like, move us into Section 6. We don't care. We don't even care what seed we get. We're gonna go and we're gonna win it. On top of that, we always talk about unsung heroes, right? We talk about guys and gals that aren't on the stat sheet all year. Nobody's talking about them. And then in the playoffs, they make a name for themselves. Number 5 on Eden Prairie, Ben Reisdorf. He's a face-off guy. He's an O-Mitty. He's a D-Mitty. He probably is the backup goalie. He is probably carrying the Gatorade coolers out. Absolute Iron Man of a player. And I can't, like, in your game and in the Edina game, just one of those guys. You get on my back. We're going to state. So shout out to him. I don't know him personally at all, and I don't know where he came from, but showed up at the right day to carry his team. I thought he and PMAC, maybe you can add more or less or whatever, but kids a
Yeah, no, like again, I don't know Ben, personally, but part of the game plan was, hey, this guy plays he's a 3-way midi. When I was scouting their team, I'm like, why? Like, he's playing a lot of minutes, but rightfully so, because he makes a difference all over the field. So, part of the game plan in my mind, I was like, all right, we got to find a way to take chips at him. We got to wear him down. So hopefully in the second half or the, late in the game, he's not making an impact. I think the opposite happened. I think in the second half against us, I think he only got better. I think he ramped things up. He didn't get tired. He just got warmed up. So I would agree
He's
with
like
you.
the Gryffindor sword of, like, whatever goes into it makes it stronger. And he just kind of kept coming out, taking the hits, making his blood stronger.
And this wasn't a Prior Lake thing. The same report, I got the exact same report about him in the Edina game. It was like, hey, guess what? We're in the second half now. It's time to turn it on. He drank his special drink, whatever that is. His cherry freeze prime, and he was ready to go. So again, Eden Prairie, I don't know. I would not want to have to play them if I was any one of these state teams. Talk about auras, talk about the magic, the mojo, the Cinderella. Can you call Eden Prairie a Cinderella story? Is that even?
No. Let's not get carried away.
You can't call them a Cinderella story, but an unlikely winner of Section 6.
Sure. Yeah.
Just they just are like, if you would have told me when they lost to Hopkins back in end of April that they would be in the state tournament, I would have said, no way, EP's dead. They're not dead. They rose at the right time. So shout out to them. Tip of the cap. I mean, it's like an unbelievable story for them.
Yeah, no, and like all these other teams, they got a couple of great weapons. You've got 4 big scorers. In my mind, like Danny Burke and Braden Cole, number 1, number 4. Like those guys are legit. Those guys are legit on all. If they can continue to put on a show, like I think anything could happen. I have no clue what seed they'll get. I don't know how they're going to seed the boys. I think the girls is a little more like I can kind of project. How the boys get seeded pretty much after 1 is going to be interesting. So I have no clue where I think they'll end up or who they'll get matched up against, but this is a team, this is a roster that have pieces in the right spots, and they clearly can handle adversity as a game goes on and like respond and get better. And because they were down at half. I thought they were on the ropes. I'm sure Edina felt the same way. I have no clue. I didn't watch their game. I haven't really watched lacrosse since. And
I want to shout out.
They handled it.
Number 14. This Isaiah Hasenkamp. Don't know him.
Very good pull.
Not a lot of stats. Quite honestly, I literally just looked up Lax Hub, but I feel like he was in every play. I feel like when I was looking at the field, there he was doing something. He went down at one point, but it didn't count him out. And there he was again, doing a lot of runs. Like you said, a great pull. I feel like it's kind of a unrecognized job, and he was someone that really stuck out to me in that game.
I obviously didn't call the Eden Prairie Prior Lake upset. However, the source can confirm on the other side, the Edina Jefferson. I think we have a little bit of notes. I don't know how many notes we have on that game. But I did predict Edina beating Jefferson. I think we talked about a little bit of this, last episode. I think there was some karma involved. I think there was some juju involved. And Edina, they were hungry coming into this one. I honestly didn't hear a ton. It sounds like you heard a little bit about the Edina EP game. How much did you get on the EP or the Edina Jefferson game? Because this game, I'm surprised. I thought it was going to be like a 1-goal game, and I thought it was going to be like a low scoring, like maybe a 7-6, maybe a 6-5. Jefferson, their defense is legit, really good goalie. I'm surprised they were able to put 10 up on them.
Yeah, that's my surprise too. It sounds like, again, I got minimal notes, but it sounds like Edina was able to win faceoffs and just get a lot of possessions. And a defense can only do so much if you're playing 70% of the game, 75% defense. And we know with Edina, they have 3 or 4 guys that are elite offensive players. And I think it just was a product of possession time, and it never really got closer than 2 goals. Like Edina just came out, got a great start, and I think they rolled through that, and just managed it the rest of the way. Jefferson for me this year, fantastic season, great defense, but it did seem like the offense kind of disappeared at times. And they have great weapons on offense too. So I don't know. I don't know what the factor was there, but yeah, I think Edina was motivated and hungry to to avenge a regular season canceled game or whatever. If that was the bulletin board material that they had.
On to Section 7. If you thought Section 6 got weird, if you thought that was chaotic, Section 7, like on the girls' side, a 5-6 in the section final of this one. And I feel like DTA Nation was on Centennial right when this bracket went. Oh, the 5th seed. The 5th seed's going to make it out of this one. Hey, Andover, the 1 seed, that was a close game. 3-goal game there. So it's not like it's not like Andover was an absolute nobody. But other than that, Centennial taking care of business. And I feel like they were the favorite of this one. Kind of DTA eye test, they were the one. And they proved that punching their ticket to state.
I'm actually, I think obviously we talked about the weird seating and stuff in Section 7. For me, the Champlin Park getting to the final, that's a nice job by them. I would have not picked them to come out of that side of the bracket. I probably would have had Blaine and or Duluth before I would have picked Champlin. But they took care of business and obviously fell short in the final, but nice season for Champlin Park. I don't know much about them as a program. I don't see them. I know they were good in years past. So maybe they're on the rise a little bit in Section 7, and maybe we'll see them in the future.
On to Section 8, last but not least. We got the matchup we anticipated. It was chalky. Moorhead, STMA. I thought this was the year. I got tricked. Maybe I read too much into things. Maybe I was reading the headlines. Maybe I was listening. Maybe my gut was lying to me. Maybe this was the one time my gut was lying. I don't know what it was. I'm gonna have to reevaluate that as well this offseason. STMA, they had some nice wins throughout the season. Good season. But I thought this was the year you were going to be able to take that next step and punch your ticket to state. You weren't, because the Spuds are back. The Spuds never left. It's Moorhead section. I don't know why I questioned it. Spuds, welcome back to the state tournament.
Yeah, and of course, it was overtime again. Man, like tough, section game final games both years. Moorhead finding a way. I hope they don't get matched up against Benilde. I think that's what everybody's talking about because it's happened.
If they get matched up against Benilde, there might be riots. I don't know. I don't know. It can't happen. It cannot happen. Even if they do the random thing and you're throwing things around the hat and Moorhead comes out at 8, put it back in and pull a different one. Pull a different one, MSHSL.
So speaking of that seeding, it sounds like other sports have been approved for 1 through 8 seeding.
And I think that's coming for lacrosse. I think I've been hearing some things. I've been talking to some people. You've seen that rolled out 1 through 8, seed, normal, locked in for it's come out for hockey. I think it's come out for a couple other sports, and I believe it will. I'm hearing it will come out for lacrosse in possibly as soon as next year.
Yeah, sweet. So that might help in the future. I feel like for the boys and the girls, I mean, there's probably some movement around like the middle of the pack, but I think you can seed all 8. I think it's not that difficult to take the extra few minutes with the coaches to talk about the seeding, and go top to bottom. So I think that's going to be an improvement of the state tournament. And this year, kind of like a closing thought about both boys and girls sections. Every year we hear from coaches or parents or fans or players or whatever of like, oh, sections aren't fair, right? They're not the best teams are staying home, or like that's an easy section, that's a hard section. This year proved everybody has a chance, and go win your section. You can go to state. I think end of story. We had 6 seeds, we had 4 seeds, we had 3 seeds, we had teams that were not the top team in their section figure it out and go win their section, that they've earned their trip to the state tournament. So I don't want to hear about tough sections anymore. It's part of the process, and good luck to all the teams, and congrats to the teams that made it.
Yeah, no, like the state tournament starts. It started in May. It started with the play-in games. In late May. So win the games that you're given. If something gets changed in the future, which I don't believe it will, not at least anytime soon, because it's not a pressing issue, then I agree with you, Ted. I don't want to hear about it. I'm not going to participate in that conversation. I know
another thought I had too was like everybody gets an opportunity to go into a section tournament.
Correct.
So like you don't have an excuse. It's not like you have to have this amazing season record or a tough schedule. You can literally play any games that you want, as many 13 or under that you want, and you all get a chance. So if you want to sandbag your season and show up in sections, that's on you. And I think that in my opinion is the fairness that maybe we don't see about having like 2 classes or whatever. If you want to compete, you got to show up at the end of the season.
And you know who else is not going to participate in that conversation? The 5-9 Andover girls Huskies program that had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 losses in a row heading into the playoffs, and they're in the state tournament.
Boom.
Yeah.
End of that.
And the boys teams in section 6 that didn't think they were ever going to beat anybody, the big dogs, everyone's beatable. As Abby Lee Dance Company says, everyone's replaceable and everyone's beatable. And it's high school kids, and you don't know what's happening, and you don't know who tweaked an ankle, and you just got to show up and beat someone. And
finals,
even if the odds are against you.
Their parties the night before, who's got final week, who's
got graduations.
There's a lot of factors. Distractions. We talked about prom week is a distraction week.
Yep.
End of the
graduation.
The school year, there's distractions. I do not see any state tournament seeding out yet. I was hoping maybe we were going to get it while we were on here. But I think it's going to get interesting. I think no matter what happens with the seeds, there should be some really interesting matchups this year. A lot of not first timers, but new teams to state tournament. At least on the boys' side. I guess I haven't really double checked on the girls' side, but teams that haven't been there for a while. So should be fun. Should be fun to see how teams match up.
Yeah, no, we'll be back next week, throughout the state tournament, breaking things down as they happen. Really excited to, see some, maybe not brand new faces all over, but like there's some different teams, different programs coming from different sections. So it's going to be a fun week, great matchups. And I think on either side, on both sides, boys and girls, I think there's 3-4 teams that I could see, raising that trophy at the end. So,
Agreed.
that's why we play the games. That's why we play the games. Going to be exciting. Can't wait. Rock some Old Southern barbecue, throughout the tournament on Father's Day. And, we'll be back next week.